Remember what I told you, right?
Yeah,
What I said?
skull man business.
What started as a rap feud exploded into a personal war. 50 Cent dragged T.I.'s family into the drama, turning a music rivalry into a viral, deeply shocking confrontation. Millions watched as lines were crossed, respect shattered, and the battle left the stage for something far more intense. The spark that lit the fuse. Let's take it back to the jump, because this thing didn't just materialize out of thin air like some internet rumor with no receipts. Nah, the tension between 50 Cent and T.I. been brewing for years, mainly tied to talks about a potential Versus battle that never came together. For the ones in the back who don't know, Versus was that live-streamed hit-for-hit competition series that had the whole culture locked in during the pandemic era. It gave us some legendary matchups, had everybody on Instagram Live debating catalogs, and at one point, the idea of 50 Cent going toe-to-toe with T.I. was very much a real conversation. Now, according to Tip himself, this wasn't just some blog rumor or something a fan made up on Twitter. He says the two of them actually chopped it up face-to-face about doing this thing. T.I. claims they were both out in LA working on some TV moves, and during that time, the Versus conversation came up naturally, like it was just the obvious next play.
Me and this talk back there, bro. Yeah, I ain't just called it the blue.
And Tip wasn't being vague about it neither. He laid the whole play out, explained how the conversation went down, how they both agreed on the game plan, and how he was the one who was supposed to go first and set the table.
I said, what you think about that? He like, you wanna do that? I said, yeah.
And then Tip broke down the arrangement. He told 50 he was gonna step out there first, get the streets buzzing about it, get the people hyped, and then 50 would slide out after him and confirm the whole thing. Easy enough play to run, right? Straightforward, no smoke, no mirrors.
And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up. Wow. And he said, all right.
But here's where the whole thing went left. According to T.I., when he stepped out there and started putting the word out publicly, 50 Cent switched up, acted like he ain't know what was happening, like all them conversations was a figment of Tip's imagination or something.
And when I jump out there, act like he ain't know what the going on.
And that right there, that's the moment T.I. says something broke between them for good. Not because 50 didn't want to do the battle. If Fifth had just kept it a buck and said, nah bro, I'm good on that, I don't want to rock with it, Tip said he would have been cool with that. Respect the honesty, keep it moving. But the fact that 50 supposedly dapped him up, agreed to the whole joint, and then played goofy when it was time to pull up, that was the snake move. That was the betrayal.
Then that's what it was about. All of it. I don't even want to, man. Cause now I question your character.
Now let me put this in the proper context. T.I. didn't just casually mention this on one podcast episode and let the moment pass. Nah fam, he went on multiple platforms including the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, and he said it with his whole entire chest. He told the world, straight up, that he had absolutely zero interest in sharing a stage with 50 Cent. That chapter was closed.
I don't want to stand on stage with him. I had no interest in standing on stage with that.
And then he dropped the bar that really set the whole vibe for everything that came after.
I don't respect him.
Now, if you know anything about 50 Cent, and I mean anything at all about how this man gets down, you already know what time it was. Because Curtis Jackson is not the type of cat who hears somebody say, I don't respect you, on a podcast and just eats that. That ain't his steez. That has never been his steez. And the receipts on that go back literal decades, fam. Because let's keep it a stack. 50 Cent has been running up on folks his entire career, and every single one of them beefs follows the exact same blueprint. Somebody says something slick, 50 fires back, and then it escalates until one side taps out or gets absolutely cooked in the aftermath. That's the play. That's always been the play. From the Ja Rule war all the way back in '99, to the Game situation in the mid-2000s, to Rick Ross, to Puffy, to literally anybody who ever fixed their mouth to say something crazy about Curtis Jackson III. And the wild part? Sometimes these beefs started over the most minor stuff imaginable. Take the Rick Ross situation. Tony Yayo, 50's Day One G-Unit soldier, broke down exactly how that whole thing kicked off when he sat down on Club Shay Shay.
Ross and 50, right? Ross is not, they got a beef because 50 didn't say what up to him. That's just a New York thing.
That's it, fam. That's all it was. A man didn't speak at an award show, and it turned into years of diss tracks and personal jabs. That's the ecosystem we operating in. So when T.I. went on national platforms and publicly declared he didn't respect 50 Cent as a man, there was a 0% chance that was gonna slide without a response. Zero. 50 Cent hopped on Instagram, told T.I. to keep my name out your mouth, and started going at Atlanta artists for being being inconsistent with their support. And just like that, what had been a simmering back and forth about a music battle transformed into something way more volatile. The temperature changed, the energy shifted, and 50 Cent started digging into that bag, the same bag he'd been reaching into for over 25 years whenever somebody decides to poke the bear and see what happens. Because here's what the people gotta understand about Fifth. When this man decides he's coming for you, he don't just come for you. He comes for everything in your orbit. Your career, your rep, your past, your skeletons, and yes, your family. He did it to Rick Ross when he got a whole video with Ross's baby mama. He did it to Puffy when he started cooking up documentaries about the man's private life. And now, in February of 2026, he was about to do it to T.I. in the most personal, the most disrespectful, and the most below-the-belt way possible. And that's what brings us to the moment that flipped this whole thing on its head. The moment that turned a rap beef into a full-blown family war. Because on February 22nd, 2026, 50 Cent made a move that sent the whole internet into a frenzy. And honestly, if you've been paying attention to how this man operates, you should have seen it coming from a mile away. When the ops got personal. Now, before we get into what went down next, you gotta understand who we talking about when we say King Harris's mom, because Tameka Tiny Harris ain't just T.I.'s wife. She ain't just some random civilian who got caught up in the crosshairs of a rap beef she had nothing to do with. Tiny Harris is a whole Grammy-winning vocalist from the legendary R&B group Xscape, a group that was moving units and selling out shows back when half the folks leaving comments on Instagram posts wasn't even a thought in their parents' minds yet. She married T.I. back in 2010, and together they built a family that includes their son, King Harris, born in 2004. So this is a woman who got her own bag, her own legacy, her own accolades, completely separate from whatever is going on between her husband and the dude from South Jamaica, Queens. And that's precisely why what 50 did next had the whole internet bugging out. Because on February 22nd, 2026, 50 Cent posted a wild, unflattering photo of Tiny Harris straight to his Instagram. And when I say unflattering, I'm being real diplomatic about it. The image showed Tiny at a performance in a revealing fit, with her skirt hiked up in a way that was obviously meant to embarrass her and get under T.I.'s skin. And the caption? The caption was 50 doubling down on what he'd been saying all along. I keep saying keep my name out your mouth, okay? Now the reaction to this was instant, and it was loud as a siren. Outlets like Hot New Hip Hop and Complex immediately called it out, describing the move as the beef turning personal and messy, pointing out how it violated them unwritten rules that have existed in hip-hop culture since the beginning of time. You know the code I'm talking about. The one that says you can diss a man's bars, you can question his street cred, you can even go at his career decisions all day long, but you don't bring his lady into it. You don't drag somebody's rib into a fight she ain't start and ain't have no parts of. But 50 Cent has never been the type to play by nobody's unwritten rules. And if we keeping it all the way funky, that's part of what makes him who he is. The man done built an entire empire on the principle that there ain't no boundaries, no sacred ground, no territory that's off limits when he decides he's going to war with you. And that mentality, that's what makes him one of the most dangerous people to have beef with in the history of this game. Which brings us to King Harris. Because if you thought 50 posting that pic of Tiny was the part where the bomb went off, you was dead wrong. That was just the fuse getting lit. The actual detonation, that came straight from King. King Harris, born August 2004, is T.I. and Tiny's son and an up-and-coming rapper who has made a name for himself for being wild confrontational on socials. This is a young bull who's been in the public eye his whole life, growing up on reality TV, watching his folks navigate fame and drama at the highest level. And when he peeped what 50 Cent posted about his mama, he didn't take a breath, he didn't count to 10, he didn't consult nobody, he went straight to the gram and turned up. King went live on Instagram with a no-holds-barred, profanity-laced rant defending his mother, and what came out of his mouth was so aggressive, so raw, and so deeply below the belt that it sent shockwaves through every corner of the internet. Now I need y'all to really sit with what King said, because he didn't just go at 50 Cent, the rapper. He didn't just go at 50 Cent, the businessman, or the TV producer. He went at 50 Cent, the orphan. He went at Curtis Jackson's deepest wound. He repeatedly brought up 50 Cent's deceased mother, Sabrina Jackson, who passed away in a suspicious fire when Curtis was only 8 years old. King told 50 on camera to go dig up his dead mama. He posted an image of a tombstone with the caption, "This where your mama at." He called Sabrina Jackson names so vile, that I ain't even gonna repeat them joints in this video because they was that disrespectful. And then he drew the comparison he felt gave him the moral high ground. He called Tiny a legend, called her a Grammy winner, a queen, and he contrasted all of that with the most disgusting characterization of 50's late mother that you could possibly imagine. All of it went stupid viral within hours. Clips flooded Instagram Reels and YouTube, racking up millions of views as people tried to wrap their heads around what they had just witnessed a 21-year-old say on a live stream. Now here's the thing about the internet, right? When something like this pops off, people pick sides real quick, and the internet was split right down the middle on this one. On one side, you had folks saying King was 1,000% right to ride for his mama like that if some clown publicly disrespects your moms, you got every right to go nuclear. On the other side, you had people saying that bringing up a man's dead mother, a woman who was taken from this earth when that man was just a little shorty, crosses a line that should never be touched under any circumstances, period, full stop. One commentator breaking down the situation captured the absurdity of how fast things had spiraled perfectly.
Technical fouls on everybody, okay? Like, how did we get here from a versus battle?
And that's dead on the money, because somehow, in the span of just a few days, we went from two OGs debating about a music competition to dead mothers, tombstone pictures, and family members getting dragged all through the digital mud.
We just wanted 20 songs versus 20 songs. Now we got people, being called federal informants.
And the families, that's the piece that caught everybody off guard.
And people's wives and mothers being insulted. Like, how did all this escalate so quickly?
Now 50 Cent, whether you respect the move or not, did not match King's energy. He ain't go live screaming into his phone camera. He ain't post a 20-minute emotional rant. Nah, he did what 50 Cent always does when somebody comes at him hot. He trolled the situation into oblivion. 50 dropped a Peppy the Frog meme on the gram with just the caption LOL, going at King without even using actual words. Just a cartoon frog laughing at the youngin'. That was it. That was the whole response. And if you've been watching how Fifth operates for the last 2+ decades, you know that response was more devastating than any rant or any diss record ever could be, because the message was crystal clear. You're not even worth getting upset over, lil bro. But then came the video that had the whole timeline shook, the one that really made people sit up in their chairs and go, oh, Fifth is on demon time. 50 Cent shared an AI-edited video clip from the 2006 movie ATL, which originally starred T.I. himself, and in this clip, 50's face is deep-faked onto a character who rolls up on a young cat, and the dialogue was aimed dead at King Harris like a laser.
What's up, man? Ain't heard from you in a while.
The AI version of Fifth just slides up on this young dude, mad casual, checking in like an OG who ain't seen his lil homie in a minute, real nonchalant with it. And then the conversation shifts to something way more pointed.
Remember what I told you, right?
Yeah,
What happened?
it's called man business.
Grown man business. That was the whole message wrapped up in 4 words. Fall back, lil bro. This ain't your lane. This ain't your weight class. Stay in your place. And then the clip wraps up with a finisher that was pure comedy and pure menace at the same time.
Boom! Ooh, got your ass. Scary as hell, man.
The caption on the joint just read, grown man boy. And right there, in one move, 50 Cent had weaponized AI technology, flipped a movie that T.I. himself starred in, and delivered a message that was equal parts hilarious and low-key threatening all at once. Some folks called it genius-level trolling. Others called it creepy and out of pocket. But here's the thing that matters most. Everybody was talking about it, and that's always been the whole play with Fifth. He don't need to win the moral debate. He just needs to win the attention game, and he stays undefeated at that. The fallout and the whole family at war. Now at this point in the story, you might have been thinking things was about to die down. Maybe you figured that after the meme, the AI deep fake joint, and King's initial explosion, both sides would take a step back, catch their breath, and realize this whole thing done gone way too far. But nah, if you thought that, you don't know these people, because the smoke was just getting started. T.I. himself slid into the comments on 50's original tiny post, and his response was exactly what you'd expect from a man whose wife just got violated on the internet in front of millions. He wrote, 966A, you can post a fat in a snowstorm on a unicycle juggling those. You still a King said that. Now look, say what you want about T.I., but the man has always had a way with stringing words together that paints a picture you can't forget even if you wanted to. And that comment, crazy as it was, sent a real clear message. He was riding with his son 100%, no questions asked. Tip also took to his Instagram stories to back King publicly, writing, "You gon' win BCU a good man, a good dad, and a good person." And then, because T.I. is an MC before anything else, he went and did what MCs do when they got smoked. He hit the lab. T.I. cooked up and dropped a record called War, war that was aimed dead at 50's character, his history, his whole reputation. The track had bars that was clearly pointed at Fifth, and Tip delivered them with the kind of lyrical sharpness that reminded every single listener why this man been in the conversation for over 20 years. One commentator breaking down the situation gave Tip his flowers for still being able to spit like that after all these years in the game.
Hey boy, T.I. has never lost his rapping mojo. You hear me?
And that's the gospel truth right there. Whatever you think about the man personally, whatever opinions you got about his decisions outside of the booth, when T.I. picks up that pen and gets in his bag, the results speak for themselves every single time.
Folks just didn't care for whatever reason, but Dime Trap and The Libra and Us or Else and Trouble Man, Heavy as the Head, all those were dope albums.
But the reality is, folks hadn't been checking for Tip like that in recent years. The culture had kind of moved on, as it tends to do. But now, because of this whole chaotic situation, people was locked back in and paying attention.
But T.I. has never slacked lyrically or musically. Y'all just care now, and I'm actually happy y'all do.
Now T.I. back to spin.
Meanwhile, King Harris was far from finished. That young boy was just getting warmed up. On February 23rd and 24th, King came back with even more heat. He dug up an old 2004 court clip of 50 Cent, straight up admitting on the stand that he assaulted 3 women at a concert. The caption he threw on it read, "All you do is apply pressure to females. Bring that smoke to the chimney. Just getting started." And then, King took it even further. He posted what media outlets called a whole dissertation on his Instagram stories, compiling what amounted to a greatest hits collection of 50 Cent's most embarrassing and controversial moments throughout his entire career. Getting shot 9 times, taking that L in the sales war against Kanye West and Graduation, beefs with damn near every rapper who was ever relevant, domestic drama, his whole Trump situation, the estrangement from his oldest son, Marquise. King ran through all of it like a prosecutor laying out evidence in a courtroom, making sure the jury of public opinion had every receipt they needed. And then, King did something that really made people uncomfortable on a different level. He went after 50 Cent's younger son, Sire, posting a photo of the boy sitting on 50's lap with the caption, "You think you raising a man having him sit in your lap as a teenager? That's a sir." Now that joint right there, that crossed a whole different kind of line, because up until that moment, this fight was between adults, or at the very least between an adult and a young man who voluntarily threw himself into the mix. But dragging a child into the madness, a kid who ain't had nothing to do with none of this drama, that made a lot of people real uneasy, including folks who had been riding with King up to that point. Now I want to pause here for a second and chop it up about what was really going on beneath the surface of all this chaos, because while the posts, the videos, and the diss tracks was getting all the engagement and all the headlines, there was a bigger conversation happening about what this whole beef represented on a cultural level, and that conversation was about generational differences in how people handle conflict. Think about it for a minute. You had 50 Cent, a man in his 50s, using Pepe memes and AI deepfake technology to troll his opponents. Clean, calculated, surgical with every post, never raising his voice, never showing emotion, just ice cold execution. And then you had King Harris, 21 years old, going live on the gram with raw, uncut, emotional explosions, tears and all. 2 completely different playbooks for the same war. And one commentator on the situation captured that uncomfortable feeling a lot of people was having watching it all play out.
Like, you know, going back and forth in the studio, cool, but when it starts going left and right, it's like,
And then the real point got made about why the whole situation felt so wrong to so many people, because it stopped being about music a long time before we got to this chapter.
Because honestly, what his wife got to do with anything? You know, the family thing. It's just weird. Them 2 brothers got a problem.
That was the vibe the majority of folks was on. This should have stayed between T.I. and 50 Cent, 2 legends with decades of history and enough classic records between them to shut down a whole festival. Instead, it became about wives, dead mothers, innocent kids, and tombstone memes plastered all over the internet for the world to gawk at.
That's what y'all gonna do. But the moment you bring somebody's family into it, it gets crazy. So I totally understand why King went off.
And that's really where we land with this whole tangled up mess. Because at the end of the day, both sides got valid points and both sides crossed major lines. 50 Cent had absolutely no business putting that picture of Tiny out there for the world to see. She wasn't in this beef. She didn't say a single word about Fifth. She was straight up collateral damage, used as a pawn in a chess match between 2 men who should have kept the smoke between themselves. And King had every single right to be heated heated about. What was done to his moms, any son would be. But going after a man's dead mother, a woman who was taken from this earth when that man was just a little boy with no say in any of it, that's a wound that don't close. And picking at it publicly, on the internet, with millions of eyeballs watching, that ain't defending your family, fam. That's weaponizing somebody's deepest trauma for content. By February 25th, King had gone even further and dropped a whole diss track aimed at burying 50 Cent, keeping his foot on the gas pedal and making it clear he wasn't about to let up anytime soon. And fifth, 50 Cent stayed characteristically unbothered on the surface, keeping his focus on his business moves, including his Broadway ventures, all while continuing to repost podcast clips and memes that clowned King and Tiny without breaking a sweat. Classic Fifth behavior. Never let them see you rattled while simultaneously making sure they know you're always watching and always ready to fire back.
If you had an altercation or you did something to me that made me feel like I had to get you, I wouldn't stop.
And that right there is the line between entertainment and something way, way darker than rap bars and Instagram posts.
Until I got you. You see what I'm saying? Because then we stopped the rap. Done rapping, we start doing something else.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.